Yo-lady-hoo. Yo-lady-hoo. Okay, so that was Weasel, who is showing you how he can yodel. I am in Noobcraft. Remember poor old Noobcraft? I had no idea how much wonderful work I'd done. All of my branch mining and stuff. I had emerald and gold and lapis blocks and redstone blocks and diamonds, lots of diamonds. You remember those poor little villagers? They were zombie villagers that I healed, and I dragged them all the way from my spawn jungle tree house all the way out to, where did I drag them out to? Oh, to my Jemez Pueblo build. And they were just kind of hanging out there, and they weren't breeding. And the reason why is because there are doors, yes, but then I put overhangs, and the villagers said, "Well, these doors don't have any sun, so they weren't breeding." I'll show you this later. Well, I built this contraption out of stairs that looks like a picnic table, and on the back of the seats, which are made out of stairs, I put doors outdoors in the sun. And holy smokes, I tried naming some, but they were breeding so fast I didn't have a chance. And you know you can only breed babies. So I've captured a bunch of them. I put rail track down in the plaza of the Pueblo, and they were out there running around, and I just kind of shoved them into rail carts, and I'm going to be scattering them around my build there. In the meantime, this is near Jemez Pueblo. There's a desert there that's sort of between the Jemez Pueblo and the Hot Springs resort place. And there's a spawner out there, a skeleton spawner in the desert. And I went through Noobcraft with 1.6.4 to try to save all the structures because I'm going to upgrade Noobcraft when, not immediately when 1.7 comes out, because I want them to have a little chance to work out some bugs first. I'm seeing a few bugs like blocks reappearing, and I'm on single player, so if I'm seeing it, and I noticed Etho the other day was playing single player, and he was having blocks reappear, and there's other glitches, like on 1.7 now, the animals are moonwalking, walking backwards, and human beings' heads will be backwards, and it's just kind of creepy and weird. It's a cross between Michael Jackson and a horror movie. So I'm not going to do it immediately, but Noobcraft I wanted in 1.7 because although I've traveled extensively and loaded a lot of chunks, I would like Noobcraft to have the new biomes, especially because I'd like access to clay blocks that are already dyed and oh, who knows what all, and all the extra flowers, and we'll see when we get there, okay? But I went all through Noobcraft and loaded up as much as I can remember anyway. I hadn't found a stronghold yet, but whatever I've got, and I even walked through the nether and saved my fortress, although my fortress doesn't have any chests in it. It's a huge, expensive fortress, and it would be great for wither skeletons and stuff like that, and I wanted to save my fortress. Let's see, what else? Oh, so what I'm doing now is I'm basically just digging sand, and mostly I'm doing that with my left button mouse trick. Just press the button down and hold it, and then I can cut down trees this way, I can mine this way, I can dig this way, obviously I can fish this way, I can use mob grinders this way, blah blah blah. So pretty much I'm just holding down the mouse button and walking back and forth. And to me it's not worth it to have expensive fancy shovels. I just might as well have a whole bunch of cobblestone shovels and just go up and down the line because I'm going to dig out a whole big batch of this desert. Maybe not the whole thing because it's a huge desert, but a whole big bunch of it. I'm making glass. What's that called? Foundry, smelting glass for glass blocks and glass panes, and because we're going to have colored glass soon, and I want a big batch of it made up. I'm also going to be making sandstone because the desert is going to become a community college in which I will have displays and laboratories and workshops and lecture halls and media centers for different things that people can do in Minecraft on all number of academic learning subjects, from physics to chemistry to even literature and the humanities, that sort of thing. So I'm going to be making a community college, and lots of sandstone and lots of glass would be very good for that project. I've accidentally stumbled onto a cave under the sand, right here where the sand is close to the forest terrain, and I've fallen in it several times and hurt myself, but didn't die. And I will probably mine some minerals from there, but I pretty much don't really need to explore that cave, I don't think. I've probably changed my mind. How can you have a hole in the ground and not go in it, you know? Yeah, so Noobcraft is getting saved, as are a few of the others. Atlantis will be kept in 1.5.2 for obvious reasons, because the map was built for that. And there's some maps you haven't seen, like the one where I spawned right near a stronghold. It's a huge, expensive map. I haven't gone over it in 1.6.4 yet, because it's going to take a very long time. And I'm not going to film it, because it's going to take a very long time. And a lot of it is stuff I have to do by boat, and boats are kind of weird now. And I'm going to have to find all my maps and remember where everything is, because it was huge. I started off on a small island. Turned out there was a stronghold under it. The island is basically swamp biome with a tiny bit of forest, and I went out in all directions. I ended up finding a continent. I needed it for things that weren't on the island, like pumpkins and, cattle. There were no cattle on the island. I think the island started out with only sheep and pigs. I even had to go look for chickens. And I found an island midway that when you go down underneath, there's a abandoned rail, and I think there's an Enderman spawner. There was a shadowy place 3 blocks tall on the surface that I have carefully preserved. And when I first came to that island, there was a good collection of ender pants, and I think that 3 block tall space might be a spawning area for ender pants. So I'm trying to keep that. But then you go past Midway Island, even farther out, and there's these nice continents that had the cows I needed and the chickens. But the cool thing was it also had a really nice large village that I've fenced and decorated and worked on. And I think it has I think it does have an abandoned mine underneath. It's been so long. And then I went out scouting from there, and I found another continent with a jungle biome and a jungle temple smack on the shoreline that I'm taking apart block by block because I want the mossy cobblestone. So I've got to go through all that, and it's going to take hours to navigate all that and update my maps, and it's going to take a really long time. But I will probably film highlights. Oh, my dog is choking himself on his own leash. He wears flea collars because my neighbor is not the cleanest well, not the cleanest, he's filthy. Anyway, so his dogs were infested with fleas, and of course my poor dog got fleas. So he has to wear a flea collar, but he doesn't have much fur because he's just a little chihuahua guy, and his neck is almost completely bald. And the flea collar, I think the chemicals in the flea collar were irritating his neck, so I wrapped a little, kind of like a bandana around his flea collar, and every now and then he figures out, by scratching his neck, he figures out how to untie the knot in his flea collar and unwrap his bandana, and then he stands there and pulls on the edges of the bandana because he's like, this thing tickles, this thing tickles. So I fixed his bandana. So I'm going to save my stronghold one. I got rid of some older maps that were just driving me crazy, and I got rid of some maps that you guys had seen, but were just sort of like to do pixel art and to do some science experiments on new snapshots and stuff that I don't really want to commit to developing or exploring or building on or blah blah blah. Like the one where I made the stained glass demonstration and stuff. I don't need to start all over from scratch and start working on new stuff with those. I can use my existing maps and build on them from there because, like, I'm impressed with how much I did in Noobcraft. I mean, there's diamond blocks in my 4 major spaces, out at the sawmill, at the Jemez Pueblo, at Hot Springs, and at my spawn town. I have lots of resources, diamonds, gold, everywhere, in all of them. I'm very proud of myself for the work I've done. And of course, I have my villagers and stuff. I don't want to play it on 1.5.2 anymore. I want to play it with the upgraded stuff and give them all fancy stuff. I worked really hard on that Hot Springs, making villager housing, and I plan to make some more. I just want to, Noobcraft really, it started out with a wooden pick and not much else, and now it's like huge. So I'll be working on that stuff. Okay, so here's my 3-month plan. It is quite obvious to me that the people who are running things now aren't even pretending that they have ethics or morals, or they want to do things the way things are supposed to be done in an ethical, responsible way. And they're going to cut corners and lie, cheat, and steal things that I contracted for. I started working when I was 8 years old. I was babysitting and mowing lawns and, doing chores for people and stuff. But I began working for a regular paycheck where deductions were taken out when I was 17 years old. So that means for 41 years. I've been paying taxes and paying into Social Security and so on, and I did it all disabled. I didn't know that I had disabilities. I just thought everybody was in pain and was struggling, and that I was some kind of a loser because I wasn't keeping up. But the fact is that I had serious disabilities and was in a lot of pain and couldn't see well and didn't have physical coordination. And because I didn't have an education and stuff, I had to do hard, heavy, physical, manual labor for about 40 years. And when it finally got to the point where my poor old body couldn't take it anymore, I needed my disability. I qualified for my disability, and it's not much money. It's only, now it's $700 a month, but for many years I lived on $300, $400, $500 a month. And now it looks like people who are responsible for budgets and stuff don't want to take responsibility for them. And why I should not get my disability check because of that makes no sense to me. It's not the government's money, it's our money. We paid into it. But I can't count on people being responsible or ethical anymore. It looks to me like things are being run by millionaires and criminals. Okay, the budget ceiling debt crisis is temporarily put on hold for 3 months. And then it looks like we're going to go through all this drama and angst, and they really terrorized me. I don't think they know or care how much low-income people on fixed incomes were frightened. The young women with babies that all of a sudden their supplemental food assistance was gone, and housing authority payments weren't made, so people ended up homeless. And that was before this debt crisis that was supposed to have, if we didn't come to a resolution by today, the government would be broke and none of these payments would be made, including my Social Security, including veterans benefits, and active duty soldiers fighting in wars would not get paid. As it was last month, soldiers who died, their families are supposed to get a survivor's death benefit of $100,000 per soldier in order to make final arrangements for that soldier. And a private company had to come in and offer the Pentagon charity so that those soldiers' families would get that money. That's too wrong. China's mad at us because we almost didn't pay our debts. Japan was scared to death. This would have caused global problems with the economy. A lot of people, not just in the U.S., a lot of people all over the planet would have suffered even more than they already are. So I can't count on these people to do the right thing, and I need to have a nest egg. On $700 a month, it's really hard to save anything more than $20, $40, something like that, over the course of 6 months. I need to increase my income. I'm glad I did a little bit of a break with the t-shirts and stuff because I didn't want to screw them up and try to do them in a rush and end up messing them up or selling something that wasn't as good as I want it to be. So now I've got time to make candy, I've got time to paint t-shirts, and I've got some other craft ideas too that won't cost me much in materials or postage and will be cute as the dickens and will be really, and not just cute, but useful things that you can use and completely unique because nobody else is making them. So it'll be a Granny Gamer original and nobody else is making them. So I've got a little bit of time and I'm gearing up. You know, it's winter, it's going to be cold out. I don't have much room in here. It's a tiny, tiny little trailer. But I've got my painting supplies, my art supplies, my cooking gear, all that stuff, and I can start making candy and making craft. So my 3-month plan is to have socked away enough money so that if the government goes nuts on me again in 3 months, I'll have at least 1 month, perhaps 3 months income to tide me over, so I won't be desperate and be terrified, waking up in the middle of the night, scared to death that I'm going to end up evicted in November in the cold, and the landlord gets all my stuff because it's a travel trailer park, and there is no 30 days notice because it's not an apartment, and he can kick me out in 1 day, and me not be able to move my trailer. He takes all my stuff as payment for me not paying the rent. He's not a nice man. This is not a healthy place. I don't want to fool with these people. I always pay my rent in full, not only on time but early, and I plan to keep it that way. I called all my credit card companies and I called the internet company and told them I might not get paid. Could they please give me a grace period? They all agreed to it. Some of the companies gave me as much as 3 months with no penalties, didn't have to make any payments. And then at the end of 3 months, I'd owe, I guess, let's say I paid $30 a month. Then at the end of 3 months, I would owe $90 with no penalties for being late or any of that stuff. So I took care of everybody I owe money to except the landlord. I was afraid to even approach them and say, I might not have an income. Can you please wait? I didn't want to even have to go through that. So today is the day. They got their act together last night. After all those temper tantrums, they didn't gain a darn thing. And a lot of people couldn't feed their kids and ended up homeless. I hope they're proud of themselves. Granny Gamer 1 is going to be gearing up with a lot more content to attract more subscribers and viewers. I'm pretty much committing to this channel and to the arts and crafts that I can do because I can't figure out another way to earn any money. This far out in the desert, there's no jobs, and I'm not physically strong enough to work at McDonald's anymore. It's the most viable resource I have as potential income. So stick with me. Things are going to be a lot more active and a lot more interesting, and let's have some fun. And thank you very much for sticking with me. And for those of you who've been concerned and sent me messages and stuff that, yay, I won't have to worry about being homeless this month. Thank you very much for keeping me in your thoughts and for being supportive. It really means a lot to me. You guys are wonderful, and I sincerely appreciate your contributions to the channel and letting other people know about the channel. It's very kind of you. Please like my videos because YouTube will stop sending you notifications of things on my channel if you don't like videos. All right, have a good day. Bye.